is Valley News Live at 4.
Good afternoon, everyone. All that smoke in the sky isn't just unpleasant to look at. It could also affect your health. Much more on that throughout the evening here on Valley News Live. But first, let's head over to Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson to see how long it's sticking around. Hutch?
Well, not only is it going to stick around, one good thing might be the very nice and colorful setting suns we've seen across the region the last couple of days, but it's going to get worse as we head into the day tomorrow. Here is a look at the visible satellite imagery and the puffy things you see moving along in the atmosphere. Those are clouds, but this gray pall you see there, smoke returning to the northern valley. We've had a little bit of a break, believe it or not, even though you can actually taste it in the atmosphere. The heat and the smoke will continue this evening. We're not too bad as far as temperatures go. We will slip into the 70s after sunset. In Grand Forks, smoky there. Well, it'll be worse because you're up north near the source of the fires in southern parts of Canada. 84 as we go through the 6 o'clock hour, dipping down into the 60s. Now, that smoke will be nasty. I'll have a smoke forecast, and we'll talk about our very small chance of rain and thunderstorms in your forecast tomorrow, as well as a heat wave that looks like it will grip the region. A lot of information coming our way. I'll have all of those details coming up here in just a few minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Hutch. We're continuing to follow the trial of the man accused of killing a Grand Forks police officer. The jury began deliberations today following closing arguments in the trial of Solomon Pendleton, the man accused of murdering his mother and Officer Cody Hulte. Valley News Team's JC Dodd joins us live from the newsroom with the latest. JC?
Manslaughter. That's what Pendleton's defense attorney is asking the jury to consider. In closing arguments, the defense argued there is no dispute over who killed Officer Hulte and Pendleton's mother. However, the defense says that wasn't his intention, arguing Pendleton had a large amount of anxiety over the threat of being evicted.
He's under an awful lot of stress, taken by surprise by this whole sequence of events.
During the rebuttal, the state's attorney argued Pendleton's actions were premeditated, emphasizing stress is not an excuse for murder.
There was no reasonable excuse for it. He was not justified in using deadly force against them.
If the jury finds Pendleton guilty of the 9 charges against him, he could spend the rest of his life behind bars. But if the jury goes with the defense suggestion of manslaughter, Pendleton's prison sentence could be significantly lower. The jury is expected to come back to the courtroom at 4:30 this afternoon, and if they haven't reached a verdict, they'll be back to deliberate early Wednesday morning. Stacey?
Thanks so much, JC. Stick with us throughout the evening as we bring you the latest from the courtroom. A man from Wyoming is behind bars in Cass County after being accused of sexually assaulting a young girl. 36-year-old Stephen Owens is charged with 1 count of felony gross sexual imposition. His 12-year-old victim told police she'd been abused by Owens multiple times over the last few years. Owens was entrusted to watch the girl overnight while her mom was at work. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years in prison. The Bemidji Police Department needs your help finding a missing teenager. Kaylee Holmes was last seen in the 2500 block of Minnesota Avenue last Monday around 4 in the afternoon. She has brown hair and brown eyes and was last seen wearing black shorts and a tie-dyed shirt with white shoes. She has pierced ears and a nose piercing, a long scar on her left forearm, and a tattoo on her middle finger. Anyone with information about where she might be should call Bemidji Police at 218-333-9111. If your internet is down, you're not alone. Sparklight customers all across the country are reporting outages, including several in the Fargo-Moorhead area. This chart shows the number of outage reports on downdetector.com today. Customers also say Sparklight's tech support number is down. This afternoon, Sparklight said their technicians and engineers are still troubleshooting the problem. If you're experiencing an issue with your service, let them know at support.sparklight.com. Grand Forks police are investigating a vandalism incident at Ben Franklin Elementary School. Police say at least 6 windows were damaged sometime Sunday night. The vandals accessed a courtyard area by scaling the side of the building and dropped down some rocks, a cinder block, and poles used to hold up a volleyball net from the roof. The damage is estimated at $3,000 to $5,000. If you use a breathing machine to help you sleep at night, you may want to listen up. Some CPAP and ventilator machines are being recalled after the manufacturer found a malfunction that could cause serious injury. The recall is regarding a type of foam used in the devices to make them less noisy. The company's testing found that the foam could break apart, causing particles to be inhaled or ingested by the user. The majority of the affected devices are in the first generation DreamStation product family. Phillips says the recently launched Dream Station 2 is not affected by the issue. If you have one of these affected CPAP machines, stop using it and give your doctor a call. Patients using the recalled ventilators should continue to use them until their doctor can find them another treatment. As the Delta variant spreads among the unvaccinated, hospitals in many states are struggling to keep pace with the new COVID surge. Even as health officials work to overcome vaccine reluctance, the FDA has issued another warning connected to the Johnson & Johnson shot. Miguel Almaguer has the latest.
The FDA warning is another setback for Johnson & Johnson. But doctors insist the vaccine benefits of the single shot still strongly outweigh the rare risk. Among the nearly 13 million Americans who've received the J&J vaccine, the FDA says 95 people were hospitalized with Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare neurological disorder with one reported death. 62-year-old Tom Gorman was training to hike the Appalachian Trail when symptoms set in.
I went to being physically fit to being in a wheelchair.
Gorman still hopes to walk again and says he's still pro-vaccine, noting COVID-19 patients are also at increased risk for the disorder. The FDA says the J&J vaccine is still safe and effective, but the setback comes during a midsummer COVID surge, threatening the progress the U.S. has seen since the start of the year. COVID cases are on the rise in 28 states, with a third of those new cases in 5 hotspots, all with low vaccination rates. And there's growing concern for one significant unvaccinated population, children under 12 who aren't yet eligible for vaccines. They're still vulnerable, adding stress for parents with the new school year approaching. It comes as the CDC says schools should prioritize in-person learning, and while some American adults refuse to be inoculated. Meantime, Pfizer is seeking federal authorization for a third dose of its vaccine, driven by fears of the Delta variant. Officials at the World Health Organization blasting the idea, arguing the pharmaceutical giant should send doses to countries desperate for help now.
This is still a global crisis, and it is a time to protect those who are most vulnerable in our society.
The CDC says children who are not vaccinated should wear masks in school, though many states are already rejecting those guidelines. Meanwhile, in California, all students will be required to wear masks in class, even if they are vaccinated. The Biden administration says its stance on COVID-19 booster shots has not changed. Following the meeting with Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company briefed federal health officials about preliminary data concerning the need for a booster shot of its vaccine. Pfizer announced late last week it was planning to apply for that emergency use authorization of a third dose. However, an HHS spokesperson said while they appreciated the information they shared, at this time, fully vaccinated Americans do not need a booster shot. Texas Democratic lawmakers are looking for Congress for swift action on federal voting rights legislation. The group flew to D.C. yesterday in order to stop a vote on a round of bills that would restrict voting rights in the state. Their absence would deny Republicans the quorum needed to pass the bills, with 26 days left in a special legislative session called largely for that purpose. This morning, the Texas delegation says they're laying everything on the line and hoping for a bold move from the Biden administration.
The outset of this legislative session, the process was poisoned. And it was poisoned by a governor who defunded the legislative branch in violation of both our state constitution, which has very specific language about separation of powers, and also what has been developed under the jurisprudence of our U.S. Constitution.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott said the lawmakers would be arrested upon returning to the state. Protesters rallied outside the White House today as Cuba faces its worst economic crisis in decades. Demonstrators are calling on President Biden to provide humanitarian assistance to the country. Cubans are facing food and medicine shortages and have struggled to get basic supplies. The island nation has been under an economic embargo imposed by the U.S. since 1960. President Biden says he supports the protesters in Cuba, but he has so far steered clear of the request to intervene. Need a dinner idea? IHOP is offering 58-cent pancakes. We'll tell you why and how to get in on the deal coming up.
And we're watching a few things. Highlights in our weather include smoke, decreasing air quality, then minimal rainfall looking like the rest of the month. And that will allow heat to build, some triple-digit heat on the way. I'll spell it all out in your hour-by-hour forecast. Join me. Weather is next.